Okay, so here we have part 2. We're going to start going over carbohydrates. We talked a little bit about polymers and macromolecules, and dehydration synthesis, and hydration hydrolysis reactions that help us either link together building blocks or break them apart, and the importance of carbon as the backbone. So carbohydrates can be just small sugars to large polysaccharides. So monomers, so single sugar, or poly, multiple. Single sugars are monosaccharides, and they're very useful. Glucose, fructose. Glucose, incidentally, is the only sugar molecule our brain can use. So it's important that we have enough glucose. Monosaccharides can then be put together to make polysaccharides, or more complex sugars. So there's your bees, they make honey. So honey is just kind of bee excrement, and yet we love it because it's yummy and sugary. We eat it all the time. So when we're dealing with monosaccharides, the carbon skeletons can vary in length. Glucose is 6 carbons long. Others are 3 to 7 carbons. And so the monosaccharides, those are our fuel. That's what we use for energy. It's what we use to do work. And we kind of use that also as kind of the raw material to make other organic compounds. So here's glucose and fructose, and very similar. But if you notice, there's 6 carbons. And then a lot of these monosaccharides monosaccharides will form rings. We show those rings with the carbon and the benzene ring. And so we kind of abbreviate it and draw it differently. And so you have a structural formula, abbreviated formula, simplified structure, but that's glucose, and you should be able to recognize that as glucose for the test. And then when you put them together, remember, you use dehydration. You pull the water out to make your disaccharide. And sucrose is a disaccharide. It's formed by combining a glucose monomer and a fructose monomer, and so that makes sucrose. And maltose is formed from 2 glucose. So 2 glucose is maltose. Glucose plus fructose equals sucrose. And so here you have glucose and glucose, so that's maltose. And you should be able to recognize that as well and know that it's a disaccharide. So sodas have a lot of fructose. It's a sweetener, and a lot of people say soda's bad for you, whatever. And yeah, too much soda is definitely bad for you. I probably drink way too much soda. But there's a lot of sugar in there, and it makes it very sugary because it's very acidic. That when the carbon monoxide that's in there that makes it all bubbly, well, that makes it very acidic. Remember, we're talking about ocean acidification. You put the same thing in your syrup, and boom, it's bubbly and very, very acidic. So lots of sugar in there. Just remember that good health is promoted by, you get a diverse diet: proteins, fat, vitamin, minerals, complex, and carbohydrates, and exercise, right? So you can drink soda, just don't drink a ton of it. Don't drink too much of it, and too much is going to be different for each person. Each person has to decide for themselves. But check out that label. So you get carbonated water, and then you have sugar, and then the color of sugar, and then an acid. So that's really interesting. Polysaccharides, they're big molecules. Macro, large, big molecules. They're polymers, so they're multiple monosaccharides linked together. And so they can be storage or they can be structural. Starch is a polysaccharide. It has glucose monomers, and it's used by plants for energy storage. Glycogen is a polysaccharide. It's glucose, but it's used by animals. So starch, plants, Glycogen, animals. Cellulose is what plants use to make their cell walls. So essentially, plant cell walls are sugar. And so is chitin. Chitin is what's on the outside of insects, the exoskeleton, right? That's a polysaccharide. It's a sugar. Interestingly enough, we cannot digest the plant cell walls. That's a sugar we can't digest, and neither is chitin. Cellulose and chitin are the two most abundant sugars in the world, and yet we cannot digest them. That's pretty disappointing. That's a lot of energy right there that we cannot get at. So here's some potatoes, right? So you look in those potatoes, you have starch, the starch granules in those tuber cells in the potatoes, and you can see the glucose monitor. And then when you look at that muscle, inside the muscle, the fat stores in there glycogen granules in the muscle tissue. And then you look at that potato leaf, and it's made of a sugar. And it's called cellulose. It's very fibery, and so sometimes when we talk about fiber, not getting enough fiber in our diet, that's kind of what they're talking about. So here's the question: if we can't digest it, why do we need fiber in our diet? And it kind of, if you look at it, it acts as kind of a scouring agent and helps keep things clean, keep things moving, keeps the plumbing from getting clogged up. So we need cellulose to kind of scour our gut for us. But there's different types of sugars, from starch to glycogen to cellulose. And so these sugars are usually water-loving, hydrophilic. And so when we talk about bath towels, they're made of cotton, right? So you get out of the shower, you grab your towel, it's going to absorb, that cotton's going to absorb a lot of the water because it's cellulose and it's hydrophilic. And so that's why your cotton absorbs water. So there you go for part 2. Answer the questions, and I'm trying hard to make sure these questions match up with each section and so on and so forth. But and if they don't, please drop me a line and let me know, hey, lecture XYZ had questions from past it or whatever. But anything before, any lecture before is fair game. It's just if the questions are dealing with stuff I haven't lectured on yet, you need to make sure and let me know. Oops. And